Okay, here we go. The video you've been waiting for. Bricks versus Breakdance. Will there be a clear winner? Well, let's see with some comparison that we want to do. First of all, one thing that you need to know. Bricks is a theme. Breakdance is a plugin, just like Elementor, Beaver Builder, and all the others. So that means that Bricks has its own theme. You don't need any other theme, of course. And inside of it, you have, of course, its own builder. So far, didn't encounter things like we had with Oxygen, for example, that was overwriting the theme and where we were not able to do some things like WooCommerce and things like that because of that. So Bricks works fine on that regard. Breakdance, on the other hand, is a plugin, but inheriting a little bit in a way from Oxygen, it can override or bypass the theme. Okay, so just like Oxygen, you install it as a plugin, but you can override the theme, so it's in a certain way themeless. So let's go first of all with the settings of each of them. So if I take a look at Bricks here on my side, on the left side, it's Bricks. On the right side, it's Breakdance. So the welcome, we have few elements here, information. By the way, I'm having the latest version as of today, which is 154 of Bricks with the new conditions. So you have links for templates and things like that. But let's go directly with the first element, which are the templates. So this is where we will build templates, whether for the header, for the footer, for 404 page, and so on. And of course, if you want to build template for a single page, archive page, this is all in the same place in Bricks. We'll come back to that later. Then you have the settings. So this is where I want to compare both Breakdance and Elementor and Bricks. So Breakdance is here at the bottom in this case. So we have the first element, which is home. Doesn't have any real things beside a couple of links here. Then we have, by the way, it's Breakdance 103 in this particular case. Then we have the templates, a little bit like what we have in Bricks. But in this particular case, we have the templates that are separated. So the templates here is more for a page or archives and things like that. And you have the headers and footers that are separated. You also have global blocks, by the way, that are separated, and pop-ups that we don't have in Bricks. More similar, of course, Breakdance, by the way, is aiming to be a competition of Elementor. So we have pop-ups just like Elementor. We don't have that in Bricks, by the way. And form submission, again, just like in Elementor. Last item, settings. So let's go into settings for now. So we have the license that is there, explains where it's going to expire and so on. So we have the global styles that are there, but we need to launch Breakdance in order to style them. We'll come back to that later. Bricks, we have the post types where we want to apply the Bricks builder. So by default, it's going to be pages. You have option of post. And of course, if you have other plugins installed or if you have created custom post type, they're going to appear there as well. So in my case, I have WooCommerce installed in both of them. So I have the products post type as well. Now, Gutenberg data, do I load Gutenberg into Bricks and do I save my Bricks data into Gutenberg? That allows me to go from one to the other if I ever need to, if I want to get rid of Bricks, for example, later on. Or if I already have some content in Gutenberg and I want to load that into Bricks. These are new sites, so I will leave it deactivated by default. SVG uploads, really interesting. You know that for now, WordPress is still blocking SVG upload for security reason. They're talking about making it available. But for now, you still need to have a plugin or a builder that supports it. For example, if you load it the first time in Elementor, don't remember if we need Pro for that or not, but anyway, when you want to upload a SVG icon, for example, in Elementor, the first time you do that, it's going to ask you to enable that feature. And just by clicking OK, it's going to do that. Well, here in Bricks, we have the options for SVG upload right there. So we can decide who can upload SVGs, for example. Let's say administrator in my case, but we can say editor as well, and so on. For Breakdance, by the way, we don't have this option. But again, Breakdance, if we upload an image, it won't allow you to upload SVG. But if you upload an icon, it will allow you to upload an SVG. So it is kind of activated by default. Some other settings here. So we can disable Bricks Open Graph meta tags if we don't want to show that. You can disable Bricks SEO meta tags because Bricks for now doesn't support Rank Math and even Yoast, I think, and so on. But it does have its own internal SEO settings. And they are working on making it compatible with the others, by the way. So it should come pretty soon, probably. But it has its own internal SEO structure that we can disable if we use another plugin. We can generate custom image size. We can enable the delete bricks data button if we want to. I have a button at the top to delete everything. We can disable the skip links that we have when we tab from one element to the other inside a WordPress page. This is for accessibility, so you don't want to disable that. I don't know why it's even there, to be honest. Query bricks data in search results. So if you want to have the bricks data that you enter available when you do a search. The bricks data, not of course the page or post content. Custom breakpoints. So this is still experimental. It has been added in, don't remember, 152 or something like that, 151. So custom breakpoints. So won't activate them for now. Well, wait, maybe, yeah, just to show the difference uh, between bricks and breakdance. I'm gonna activate the feature. There's no content so far, so nothing really to do that. You can also convert, and this is if you already have previous content in Bricks, of course. You can convert the container if you use that from the first few versions of Bricks. You can convert element IDs and position relative because in 151, I think, or 2 anyway, they removed the position relative and it was breaking some layouts, so you can add it back here if you need to. We add the builder access, so who can access the builder? So of course, by default, administrator has the full access and you cannot even change that. Any editor and other level, you have the choice between no access at all, so they cannot access the builder. They can only edit the content, so that means that they will be able to click on text and images and change them, but not add new content like a new column, a new container, let's say, a new image, a new text. They will not be able to do so. Only edit what is already there. And of course, full access is access to all the builder. And you have that for all the roles. You see, we have customer and shop manager that are there because of WooCommerce. Code execution, you can disable the code execution. That's because you can enter some HTML or other code into a block. There's an HTML block, by the way, and you can click on a button to execute that instead of displaying it. Of course, you can display the code because maybe what you want is a website that shows how to code something, for example. But most of the time, what you want is really to execute that code. So this is available. We have a little button or a link to click to enable the code in Bricks. Now, if you don't want that, you can disable the code execution altogether for security reason, for example. Or if you want to enable that, you can say that only administrators can execute the code, not the other levels. So not sure that I need to save every time, by the way, but anyway, I prefer to do that. Templates. We can disable the default templates because if we don't do so, it's going to use a default template. So you will need to override it. I always create my own templates anyways, so I don't really care to disable it or not. You can make the template public. If you create a template for anything and you want to have a link to show it to a customer, for example, you can make it public so that way they can browse to that specific template. If you don't enable that, they won't be able to browse to it. Of course, they will be able to browse to the content. For example, if you make a template for pages, they will be able to go to that page or to post, let's say, more obvious for that. So they will be able to still navigate to that post, and of course the template will apply. But if you want to have the template, the empty template, uh, or a template that you have built with different colors and things like that, and you want that to be available to your customers, then you will need to enable that. And the access here, you can whitelist that if you want to use that on other sites. You can password protect it. Remote template, there again, you can use that from one site to the other, and you can convert the template. If you import a template that is using the old container, you can convert that to blocks and sections and so on. The builder itself, you can disable the autosave that is saved every 60 seconds, which is 1 minute, of course. So you can disable that if you want to, but it's always a good idea to have an autosave just in case something breaks at some point. By default, the builder is in dark mode. The language is the site default, which is English in my case, but you can switch that to another language if you have more than one installed. Uh, the auto direction is the auto, or you have left to right and right to left, depending on the language. The toolbar logo, you will see when we are in the builder that we have a logo at the top. So when we click on it, by default, it will simply preview the page. But we already have another button to preview, so I usually change that. So we have the choice between home page, so go to the home page, go back to the dashboard, go to the post type. So if you are editing a page, it will go to pages. If you are editing a post, it will go to post. Of course, if you use bricks for custom post type and so on. You can edit the same current post, but in WordPress, and you have no link at all. So I usually use dashboard in my case. You can open that in a new tab if you want to have more than one tab open. Control panel, you can disable global classes, the interface, in other words. You can disable the element spacing on the canvas. So if you don't want to have the default padding or margin, for example, that's my understanding of it. Yeah, the structure panel, whether it will be by default on the right side if you open it. I want to have it. These are two buttons that you can have on the elements, duplicate and delete. I like to have them. It's a shortcut to duplicate or delete element. So don't have to right click and select duplicate or delete. You can have them collapse on page load, so all the panels will be collapsed in the structure panel, and you can expand it when you scroll to it in the view or when you click on it. So that's usually what I do. Element action, so the wrap element, when you right click, the default one will be block, insert, and insert layout. The same thing. I usually don't change that, but you can change that to div and containers if you want to for the three. Experimental, you can disable the WP REST API render, so I never did that. So it uses the WordPress rendering. And dynamic data, now you can, when you are using custom post type, for example, you can show, instead of showing the placeholder, you can show the actual data. That's how I understand it. So you can toggle that on if you want to. Performance, this is where I wanted to show you to compare with Breakdance, but anyway, since I'm going through every settings of Breakdance of Bricks, I'll do that in Breakdance after. So there's a lot of things that you can disable here, and let's compare that with Breakdance at the same time. Okay, what we can disable and one and the other. So we can disable the emojis that we have with WordPress. We can disable the embeds. You can disable the Google fonts. So you can load your custom fonts, by the way, as you can see here, even if it's a Google font, but it won't load the Google fonts from the Google website if you disable that. You can disable lazy loading. So by default, all the images will have the lazy load property applied to it, which is a good thing usually. But of course, the first image, that is what we call the viewport, in other words, what we see when we open the page, it's not good that it's using lazy load for if you want to, for example, test it on GTmetrix, Pindom, and so on. They will tell you that there's a content layout shift if you use lazy loading. So you might want to disable that. In Breakdance, you're going to do that image by image if you want to. Here in Bricks, you can disable it for every image, or you can leave it like that and specify an offset. So by default, the first 300 pixels at the top will not use a lazy load. Okay, so you can increase that number if you want to. For example, 300 pixel is not that much, but that's enough usually for the header and maybe first image, first hero section if you have one. If you want to have more than that, let's say, I don't know, 1000 pixels, because you are using a desktop most of the time, that's really up to you. Okay, so that first viewport will always be visible. Usually I keep it the default value, but honestly, 1000 here could be probably a good idea. We can disable jQuery migrate. We don't need jQuery migrate for newer browser. You can cache the query loops if you are using query loops, so that way it's going to be faster, since if it's always the same value that you are querying, that can be a good idea. These are experimental, by the way. You can add element in class as needed, so it doesn't have that every time. CSS loading method, usually it's inline. That's the default one, but it's usually better to have an external file. So that's what I usually do. And web font, style sheet, that's okay. I don't know what is web font loader, so I usually leave it like that. As opposed, in Breakdance, we have the remove Gutenberg blocks CSS. Because since we are still using probably a default WordPress theme, though we deactivate it, by the way, here when we install it, it deactivated by default, and you can decide to keep it if you want to. But they also have a really, let's say, bare bone theme if you want to use that instead. If you or template or if your plugins need to absolutely use a theme. So you can remove the Gutenberg CSS that is loaded by default. That's 11 kilobytes of CSS load for nothing if you don't use Gutenberg. Of course, if you want to use Gutenberg for the post, for example, you will probably want to keep that. Okay. XML RPC pingback, you can disable that as well. The emojis is the same thing that we had for bricks. Dash icons also, I think it's not mentioned in bricks. That's strange. So often you can disable that. embed is when you embed a video or things like that. It will preview it in the browser, even in Gutenberg or things like that. You don't need that. Art SD link, really simple discovery feature. You can disable that as well. WL, Windows Live Writer, we don't use that anymore. It's completely discontinued in 2017, but WordPress still adds that, so you can disable that without any issue. REST API, you're going to delete that most of the time. Take care that sometimes, for example, Jetpack, I think, is using it, so you need to check that. That's probably the same thing that we have here for bricks, by the way. Disable REST API render. So uses AJAX instead of REST API. So let's say I'm going to disable it to be equal to this one. WPU generator meta tag, and it adds it to the header section, so the add section. So you can disable that, not showing that you are using WordPress. Short link, same thing. Relational link and RSS feed. We can disable all of that. So not exactly the same options that we have for both builder. API key, if you want to use Unsplash, Google Maps, and so on, you can put the API key here. So when you use them in the builder, it won't ask for it because it's already written here. You can have custom codes, so custom CSS, custom header script if you want to use JavaScript in the head section, in the body section, or in the footer section. So these three are scripts. You have the custom code here as well in Breakdance that is similar. So you have header code and footer code. Doesn't make any difference between CSS and JavaScript in this particular case. And you don't have the body header script that we have in Bricks. WooCommerce is another tab because we have WooCommerce installed. So you can disable the WooCommerce builder if you want to. And you can change the product badge to say, for example, a specific text or a percentage when you have a sale. You can disable the zoom gallery and the like box in a single product. So I usually don't change that, but we're going to take a look at WooCommerce more later on. Now let's take a look at Breakdance. So global styles, like I said, I'm going to come back to that a little bit later on. So we have the theme here, whether we disable the theme. So in my case, I have the default WordPress 2022 theme enabled, but since it enables the theme, even if I go to, don't remember what it is by heart with the icon. There we go. So the theme here, you will see that it tells us that it's disabled. Okay, it will never be loaded anyway. WooCommerce, the action for WooCommerce here are in this place, but Breakdance, we use the Breakdance style, so we use, well, it will override the default WooCommerce style, in other words. And the theme is disabled, so it's going to use Breakdance as well. So user access, so a little bit like the builder access here. So who can access that? Full access for administrator, full access or edit content for the other, or no access at all, just like we had for Bricks. And personal a user with edit content access. This can be interesting. I usually use a plugin called user switching or something like that to create a different user and then switch to that user to be that user, to see what they see, to have the options that they have. But this will allow you to at least, not exactly the same thing, but at least test the edit content mode without having to create an editor. Okay, because of course, administrator has always full access. So if you want to see how it looks like when you have just edit content access, you can check that checkbox here. So better than to have to create another user, if that's the only reason you do so, of course. We have the maintenance mode, just like in Elementor. So Bricks doesn't have that. So you can enable the coming soon or maintenance mode. And of course, if you do so, you can select one of the page already created. The only page that I have so far are my simple page, of course, and the WooCommerce generated pages as well. Access control, if we set that to, for example, on maintenance or coming soon, who can access the website? So logged in user or log in with a specific role like administrator or editor, for example. And you can have a specific URL parameter if you want to. We already saw performance, so let's go with API keys. So a little bit similar to what we had in Bricks here, we can enter API for a bunch of external applications to have them linked with Breakdance. Post type is similar to what we had first here, where we have post pages and products. So same thing here. So all public and allowed post type, just the post, just the pages. You see that WooCommerce is not there. So custom post type hopefully should be there as well. Didn't test it so far. Advanced here, the content filter. So that's a little bit more advanced. It's more when you have problems, but it has security implication that it says here. So this is not something that you should enable unless you have problems that you really need that. Okay, so most of the time you don't need to enable that. Design library. So this website can be turned into a design set that you can reuse for other websites. So you can turn that on if you want to and create just one website one time to be the kind of source for other websites if you want it like that. We already talked about the custom code and then the tools that we have. So we can regenerate the CSS a little bit like Elementor again. Of course, we had something similar in the builder here where we can regenerate CSS. No, not here. Sorry. Um, don't remember exactly where it was. Template, I guess. Anyway, don't remember where. But we could do the same thing in bricks as well. There we go. If you regenerate the CSS file, if you install an update or things like that, you can reset the total reset or soft reset for the content. You can create directories, replace the URL just like Elementor. If you move your site from one domain to another, you can run find and replace here because that means that it probably does just like Elementor. For example, bricks and many builders will put the content in the default database table. That's it, like that. While Elementor will put it in somewhere else. So even if you do a regular search and replace, it might not find the images, for example, or specific links and so on. So by doing that, it goes to the other database and makes sure that everything is loaded correctly. Don't think that Bricks, since it doesn't have that, has that issue at all. You can export and import settings, of course, for another site as well. So these are the general settings that we have in both Builder. So like I said, Breakdance, you have the templates, but you have the header and footer that are separated. You also have global blocks, a little bit again like in Elementor. So a block, for example, a footer or not a footer, sorry, but a form, let's say, or a header, hero header that you want to repeat in many places. The fact that you have it global, you can put it in many places. And if you make a change, you make a change in the global blocks itself, and the change will be available everywhere that you use it. Not sure if we have global blocks in the bricks, but I know that you can save elements. So you should probably have that. It probably appears on the templates that never tested it, to be quite honest. Pop-ups is something that we don't have in bricks, at least not out of the box. You probably can use a plugin or create it differently with HTML and code, but it's really easy to do in Breakdance, just like in Elementor. Form submission, like I said, if you have a form, you can have the submission data that is collected here, just like again, Elementor Pro. And that's about it for Breakdance, the settings. So we already talked about templates. So we have the custom fonts here. You have something similar in Breakdance. By the way, we skipped the global style, so maybe it's time to go there. See launch Breakdance. Usually do that differently in bricks. That's why I didn't do it so far, but let's see what we can do here. So you can set the color, the global colors, text, headings, and so on. For the buttons, the typography. So for the heading, for the body font, the sizes, the font, of course, forms container, and so on. All of that can be set here. So typography here, I think that you can select a font, but you cannot, that's not the place anyway where you would have a custom font. So I would need to check back because I don't remember. I think that you can do so, but I don't remember where, to be quite honest, in Breakdance. So I'll have to check that and come back later because there's no custom font here anyway. While in bricks, it's pretty easy to do. So you just add a new custom font here. Can be, like I said, a Google font if you want to host it locally, or any other font type like Adobe font or Font Squirrel and so on. So you had it here. You had the different format that you want, and you just edit that to go and get the file to upload it. And then you can add a different font variant for medium and so on. Then, of course, they appear in the list in the editor. Sidebar, so you can create your own sidebar. Remember that Bricks is a theme, not a plugin, so you can create your own custom sidebars here. An easy way to do so. System information is more, of course, information. And the license that is right here as well. So these are the settings. Now, the next step, we'll take a look at the builder itself inside when creating a page. Okay, now for this next step, let's take a look at the builder interface itself. Now, just a little note, by the way, there has been, sorry, pretty busy these days. There has been a 2 weeks difference between the first part of the video and this part here. So meanwhile, WordPress has upgraded to 603, but also Bricks to 156 that I just upgraded. I think it was released yesterday. So that's why you're going to see version 156. And Breakdance is at 103, so I don't remember if that was the version of the first part of the video as well. So anyway, Bricks on the left side, Breakdance on the right side. Let's create a new page with both. So let's say, I don't know, Bricks test page that I'm going to publish and edit with Bricks. Let's do the same thing on the right side with Breakdance. Breakdance test page. Let's publish that and edit in Breakdance. Now, of course, as you can see, space is going to be pretty small. So because we see all the panels, so we might do it differently. You see that the Breakdance interface by default doesn't have any panels visible, but we will need some anyway. We already went through it because we went through the global settings here. So if we show the structure panel, and as soon as we add something, we're going to have both panel as well open. So it's going to be pretty similar to Bricks, which also can hide the structure panel, by the way. I'm not sure if we can hide the panel here. For of course, it is hidden when we preview it, but beside that, not necessarily. So if we compare the two panels, the Bricks one's pretty similar to Elementor in the icons. Elementor pretty similar to Thrive Architect, by the way, as well. So we have icons divided in two columns with the name of each of the elements that we can have. And of course, I have WooCommerce installed, so we can compare both a little bit later. So we have more elements because of that. On the right side with Breakdance, we have one column for each element. So they decided to go that way. Matter of preference, let's say, to be honest. So there's so many things here with both, honestly. But especially I found with Breakdance, maybe because I know it less, I find it's a lot easier to simply use the search element at the top that we have in both, by the way. So if you like to search for things, uh, that's okay. You have it there as well. The elements, and you also have your own library, by the way, directly from there, and the other pre-made library as well that you have in Breakdance. So we have a few tools here at the top. So let's take a look at the bricks one first of all. So we have the states here. So that's not necessarily obvious, honestly, when you open that in the first time. If you don't watch any tutorial videos, one and the other, by the way, might not be that obvious to use sometimes. So that little, well, first of all, you have the icon here that can go to the dashboard, but you can change that if you want to. Then you have the overstates or all the pseudo elements that you can select. Of course, I have nothing selected here. So let's say, for example, that I put a button. I will need to have a section here first. So let's add a button here. So if I want to have the hover state to change the background color for the hover state, I need to click here to go to the other states. And now I can have hover, I can have active and focus as well. And you can type any other, I think, like before and after if you want to. And then you are styling the overstate. So for example, if I change the background color here for that one, not pretty. I could change maybe the color as well, at least. So this is really the hover state, and we have it there, and you can style the other as well. So if I get out, now you see that I have my hover state like that. With that, we have the help button. We have the pages button. That allows us to go from one page to the other. So as you can see here, since I have WooCommerce installed, we have many pre-made pages. So we can move from one page to the other to edit that particular page. So pretty cool there. We also have, by the way, a little drop down here. So if I had posts or if I had some other custom post type, probably I would be able to edit them from there. Templates are not editable by this section, by the way. Templates are here on this side, on the right side, where you can click there and edit or create new templates from there. Then you have the history panel. So all the history since you have opened the document. Of course, there's a maximum steps available to go back. Don't remember how many. And you have a revision, which are previous version of the same page. You have the settings. So there you have the theme settings where you can specify the theme style, where you can specify which style to apply. And we need to do that pretty much on every first page, let's say it like that, that we create for bricks, because you want to apply styles. And if you create styles here and you don't apply it to your page or to all the pages and the entire website, for example, then they will not be styled by default. So the styling that we can do in Breakdance, if you want to do that for the entire website, this is where you need to go. So you need to always create one first. So let's call that demo, let's say. And then you can style pretty much everything. That's really great. All the things that you can style there. For example, your section and container. So some people have complained about the fact that 1.4 from memory added section, container. Well, container was already there, but they added section, div, and blocks. Could be confusing for some people. But the fact that we can style all of them separately here really makes it a lot easier to use them. The fact that we have more than one container or type of container. Of course, we can always change that in the styles, change the way it behaves, and so on. But you have to redo it over and over again. So the fact that we have a separated section and container here, and that we can style them separately from the start, really helps us speed up development. Of course, we have conditions here. So first thing, we need to select where this will apply. So let's say entire website. And then you can style your own things. So I won't do that for now, but let's keep it at least. If we ever change something, we will be able to have it there. Then we also have the page itself settings. So we have the general settings for the page. We have the one-page navigation. If we want to have a one-page navigation, show navigation will put dots here on the right side. And we have SEO, because this is one great thing about Wix. Of course, you can use Rank Math or Yoast or things like that, but it has its own internal SEO settings or platform, if I can say it like that, that you can use as well. So you don't necessarily need to have an additional plugin for that. Then you have the social media settings. And if you want to have custom code for that page, then you can put it there. Note that you have the custom code in the general settings for the entire website. This is just for that page. And of course, you also have that on each specific element if you want to put code on the specific element itself. So this is for the settings. And then we have the little plus that brings us to the elements panel where we can add different elements here. So I won't go through all the elements to show you how they work. By default, the structure panel is there, so you can navigate. You can show buttons on it as well if you want to edit, delete, and things like that. Copy. That's pretty much it. You have undo and redo buttons on the right side here. And you have here, go back to WordPress. Is it in WordPress? You have a preview button where you can preview this page in the page itself. And sometimes when you have dynamic content or things like that, it will not necessarily be visible here, but you can click to view on the front end, and there you have the page itself on the front end. And when you save, it will update that page as well if you keep it open. Of course, you have a save button here as well. So let's keep it like that. That's why, by the way, there was nothing. Now you see my page as refresh. Now let's take a look at Breakdance. So Breakdance, same thing. I can open my structure panel if I want to. I have a save button here on the right side and only my few panels here that we can open, or few settings. You have there, the history is there, the preferences are there. You have an element studio to build custom elements. We already went through the global settings, and you have the undo and redo buttons right there. Forgot, but of course, bricks also have at the top here, just like Breakdance. Breakdance, you can change the page that you edit, sorry, but you also have the different responsive size. You have 3 by default in bricks. Maybe it's worth to go see it. But now, since a couple version, you have the breakpoint manager, so you can add more breakpoints if you want to. And you can also decide, and that's a great thing, whether you want to be desktop first or mobile first, which is usually what we should do. But anyway, so you see that now I'm starting to the desktop and it goes down to the mobile. But if you want to put that one, I don't remember exactly how, but if you want to use that one as the base breakpoint, there we go, an update, then it goes from mobile up to desktop. So the base point is portrait. A little bit harder in certain way to develop, but it's better for accessibility for mobile use and so on. So it's really up to you, but of course, really recommended to do that first. If you want to do a mobile first, you do that before adding any elements to the page, because of course your layout might change a lot if you do it like that. Well, you already have content. So Breakdance have 5 breakpoints by default, and you can also resize it if you want to when you choose a specific breakpoint. You have the panels like we said here on the right side, left side, sorry. So you can add an element from there, but that's just the button that brings you. So it's the same thing as the add button that you have there. And you have all your elements that are there as well. So let's do the same thing as we did for bricks. So let's add a button. You see here this time that it does add a section, but it does add it automatically, a little bit like Elementor from memory will add a section automatically. While in bricks, don't know if I did something wrong at the same time, but I needed to add the section first. So now we have settings for the buttons. So if I compare them side by side again, let's get rid of those to have more space. So you see that, for example, in bricks, you have the content of the button, you have which HTML tag that you want to use, because in fact that's a link, the size, you have some pre-made styles for that you can change, of course, in your settings. You have whether it's a circle, or in other words, really rounded border, or it's an outline button, so no background. You choose the link and you can choose an icon. That's for the content itself. And then you have the style where you can style everything from there. Okay. So sorry, I'm going to get rid of that. So you can style everything from this panel here. So layout, typography, and so on. In Bricks, we only have the text in the link itself for the first panel, but we have 3 panels instead of 2. Second panel is the main styling. So we have the button itself. We have primary, secondary, or custom. Just text will do a little bit the same thing as, well, not necessarily the same thing as outlined here, because you see that it keeps the size and I think a border as well. Well, this is really just a text link. So you have primary and secondary style, which is by default pretty much the outline one, and you can use a custom to style it like that. One thing you will notice, by the way, when you work with Breakdance, you have all the settings possible, but often they are hidden. So you need to open one and sometimes many boxes to have all the settings. So it's probably one of the most complete one. There's no settings that I haven't found, but sometimes there are 3, 4, 5 even levels deep into boxes that you need to really try to find. Let's say it like that. I even had some hard time to find the different size here. So you really need to move over to see the icon appear, because it's not always there. Fortunately, if you have 4 or 5 panels open like this one, you don't have to close them all one by one. Just by clicking outside of it, we'll close everything. So you have the light box if you open the light box, and the spacing. But if you want to have more advanced settings, whether look or other, then you have the advanced tab here, where you can enter your custom CSS. You can hide on a certain breakpoint. So it's a little bit like the responsive tab in Elementor, for example. You have some conditions, and that has been added to Bricks as well in 1.55, I think, where you can have conditions as well, and animations here. By the way, my feeling is that Breakdance was pretty much more polished, let's say it like that, when it was released. They've been working on that, I think, for the last 3 years. So out of the box, when you installed it, even the beta version, there was already a lot more stuff than what was in Bricks. That being said, Bricks is slowly adding them, and it's been released for more than 1 year now. So it's pretty similar. For example, we have pop-ups in Breakdance. I think I mentioned it previously. We don't have that in Bricks yet, but it's coming. They are working. That's in the development phase. Something for mega menu, things like that. So it's coming. Why is it longer? Simply because I think that they are waiting for the feedback of the user to see what they want, what is most important. One thing there. And the other thing is also that it's more, well, they say it's developer oriented. Not really agree with that, because it's not really developer oriented in the sense that a lot of people can still use it even if they're not developer. But it has more power, if I can say it like that. For example, we can use CSS variables. Don't think we can do that in Breakdance. So if you're an advanced user, you will probably prefer, not the time for conclusions yet, but anyway, you would probably prefer Bricks. While if you're more a designer or a junior developer that don't necessarily want to learn all of that, maybe Breakdance is going to be easier to use. But anyway, like I said, not time for conclusion yet. So let's take a look at more things. So like I said, I don't want to go through all of the settings or all of the elements available in the library. There are a ton of those. That would be way too long. And by the way, Breakdance really focusing on copying Elementor in such a way, or making it a better Elementor. That's what they say themselves. It's Elementor on steroid. So everything that you have in Elementor Pro will be there for sure. And if it's not an Elementor Pro, well, their let's say it like that. Their argument is it's not an Elementor. So that's the answer that they give. A little bit strange, if I want to be honest. But anyway, so to save, I'm gonna click on the save button here, and my breakdance is not big enough, so I need to resize it to see my button. And let's go back to now how it use WooCommerce by default. So one of the big arguments of Breakdance is that it is really WooCommerce ready, out of the box, really beautiful, don't need anything else to work with in order to style the page and so on. So let's see how the default pages look like. So in both of them, Bricks and Breakdance, I have installed WooCommerce and I have imported the default products that comes with WooCommerce itself. So let's take a look at how the page look like by default. So let's go to the store directly. Let's open that in a new tab. So I didn't create any header or footer, so it really looks directly like that. It's plain, simple. We have the hard to cart button for the archive page, if we can say it like that. So we have the title, we have the showing, and we have the default sorting. And then we have 4 columns of product with the pagination on the bottom left here. Plain gray button. If I take a look with Breakdance, there we go. Sorry, open on the road side. So I'm going to click on that to exit to the front end, let's say. Can I go directly to the... no. It should be the... should be the shop page, I guess. Nope. Probably a problem here on my thing. Sorry. Visit store. Let's go. Okay. So same thing here, a little bit more space. We have the images that have a little rounded border. We don't have that on bricks. Buttons are a lot more stylish, more beautiful, from my point of view anyway. We have this also the same showing and default sorting. And we have the pagination here, but in the center instead of the left side. And we already have plenty of space here at the bottom. So out of the box, I could say that we have a clear winner here in Breakdance. You see here more tablet mode, still 4 columns, 3 columns here in Breakdance, and 4 columns on a bigger screen. Now let's take a look at the product page. Sorry. So if I click on the album one, let's say, to open it, let's do the same thing in Breakdance. So you see Breakdance, I have my zoom hover effect. I see my album here and everything, my description, review. And this is like a big tablet or small computer screen. So we have the description, the review, the related products, and the how to cart. Well, that's everything with related products. Meanwhile, in bricks, we have the image that takes the entire space, and we can have a little light box pop up here. And by the way, if we open that full screen, we also have the same thing as in Breakdance. So we have the album title and so on, description, related product. But on medium screen size, let's say, my screen divided in 2, so don't know if it's a tablet size. We have a really big image and the content underneath it, while in Breakdance, it's still 2-column layout here. So matter of preference, you can probably go there and change that as well, by the way, if you want to. In terms of color, again, it's more colorful in Breakdance, but all the elements are there in both places. This one has a numeric plus minus that we don't have here. We have a little traditional up and down arrows here. So it's really just a matter of choice. But then again, of course, if you do style your default elements in bricks, like I usually do right from the start, then no problem. You will see it the way that you want. Now, I just saw that we already have a breadcrumbs in bricks by default, which is not the case in Breakdance. Now, let's say if I had to cart in both of them, so my view to cart button here, this one is a little bit stylish, more stylish again. So again, same thing. We have already the tablet view here. If I open that, it's going to probably be a lot more like what we have in Breakdance, sorry, 2 columns and so on. And again, no colors, no shiny stuff. So out of the box, yes, Breakdance is more beautiful, but don't forget that I haven't styled anything in bricks as well. So yes, out of the box, Breakdance is prettier, but let's be honest, you will rarely not style anything in your website, so bricks will surely look different once you do that. So let's take a look at proceed to checkout. By the way, you have the cart's total here. You have the entire thing here. So that's pretty much the same. Apply coupon, update cart. So this button is clearer. Maybe it does appear or update automatically. Yeah. So it kind of update in Ajax on the Breakdance side, while here in the brick side, you need to click on update cart, which is the traditional way of doing in WooCommerce. So it's not necessarily a negative thing. Then proceed to checkout in both place. So we have the traditional form here, and again, tablet view here, because we have some fields that will be side by side. If we go in full screen mode, and here in this case, it's already in 2 columns, so no difference if we go full screen. And of course, I won't place the order, but that's the default view. So yes, it's a little bit prettier in Breakdance, but of course, nothing that you cannot achieve pretty easily for sure with bricks. So next step, custom post types. How we work with custom post types in both builders. Okay, so now we'll take a look at using custom post types. So I have created custom post types here for albums, artists, and songs. If you looked at the previous videos that I've made with Jet Engine and Bricks and others, uh, I use those. So I use the same data. We won't use songs in this one, by the way, and I have converted it to advanced custom fields instead of Jet Engine because, of course, for example, Breakdance doesn't declare that they support Jet Engine, so maybe they can see some fields, but not support as much. So I wanted to make sure that I put everything on the same level. So I'm using advanced custom field and custom post type UI to create those elements. So if we take a little look at what we have here, so let's focus on the albums. I have the title, I have some content, I have the genres of the album, and I have the featured image. For the artist, I also have the title and content, and I have a featured image. So since I have a little bit more content in the album, also, by the way, album, I forgot to say, I also have a custom post field. So we'll use the albums in this case. I didn't do the relationship that I did in other videos. So let's focus on just showing those elements. And I have the same thing for both bricks and breakdance, of course. So let's start by creating the archive for the albums. So I'm going to go inside bricks and templates. I'm going to say add new. I'm gonna name that archive. Uh, album archive. Albums archive. Gonna save that. I can save right there, by the way, it's gonna be an archive. So let's publish. If I don't specify it, it's gonna ask me when I exit with bricks. So first thing, before I forget, I need to come here and specify to which type of archive I'm going to be applying that, because of course I only do that for one element here, but usually you will do that for many elements possibly. So I'm going to specify right away in the template settings that I want to apply that specific template only for the album. So let's go with post type, albums. And we could also populate content. This is purely optional because as soon as I'm gonna use a query, it's gonna do that right away. So I could say, for example, archive and then post and specify then that it's the albums and applying preview. But I will remove it just to show you that it's gonna do that anyway because of the query that we're gonna create. All right, so let's add the content. I'm gonna add layout here, and I'm gonna do it two different ways. The first way that I'm gonna do it is using the easy post element that is included with with a bricks. I think we have the same thing with Breakdance, by the way. So the post here, kind of a post grid. That's the easiest way. So let me just open that. So I'm going to click on the little query here to change my query. So instead of post, I'm going to say albums. I'm going to order that by title and ascending to have them in alphabetical order. Instead of 2 columns, I'm going to say 3 columns. But first, let's say we have 8 albums. So let's say 6 per page so that we can see the pagination. And that's about it for now. So layout is going to be 3 columns instead of 2. Image is already there, but I'm going to say it's already square. Let's say I'm going to link the image so we can click on it. I'm going to use, let's say, 300 by 300. Maybe it's already the case, but anyway. And the fields, I want to have the image. I want to have the title that is linked as well, by the way. That's why we have column linked. And an excerpt of 20 characters. That's okay. So everything is already fine. Let's add the pagination to go to the second page. And I'm going to keep it like that by default. So that's all. Everything is already fine. So let's see if I can, if I can look for the archive albums, what it looks like now. And here we go. So this is the default one. So did I save? All right, I did miss something somewhere. Let me, sometimes when we do two things at the same times. Albums, post type album, edition. Oh, sorry, it's the archive. It's not the post type. So archive, then we select post type and then albums. My mistake here. Went too fast. So let's refresh that. And now we see the 3 columns that we have, and we also see the navigation at the bottom. All right. And I can click on any of those to see the album. Of course, we didn't create any template for that. So let's create the album template, the single album template. So I can go there from there. So let's click on template. I'm going to add a new one, create a template. Let's say a single album. Template type is going to be a single. I have no bundles, so let's create a template and let's edit my template. quickly do that from there. So again, let's create a layout here so that we have everything there. So let's put the title of the album, the artist, let's say underneath. So post title. Let's go right away before I forget it to change that to be a single artist. So a single album, sorry. So individual. No, sorry, individual is one page. So it's post type and album. It's pretty late here, by the way. Right now it's 5 a.m., so cannot sleep. So that's why it's a little bit hard sometimes. Okay, so the single title here. So let's keep it on H1. That's okay. After that, let's post the image. So image here. There's no post image here. Okay, so that's okay. So the image, I'm going to use my little dynamic data here for the image. So featured image. Let's use, well, that's okay, the size. And HTML tag, we won't link it, but that's okay. Um, mm, 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 mm. We can just go there to have a real preview because now since I'm creating a template, I have a single album, no image. So let's populate the content. Let's say, for example, that I want to use a single post or page. And let's say I want to have, I don't know, come on over maybe. There we go. Apply and preview. Gonna save my page and reload. And here we go. So this is my album. Images are not all the same size, so it's far from being 10. So full is 220. So depending on the album, the size will be different. But anyway. All right, so now let's put a little the bio of the album. So that's the content, in other words. Of course, I can add some spacing above. Let's say 40 here. I could have added some here as well. Spacing bottom below the title, let's say. Maybe 30. Just say that it's not the same. Okay, what else? We can put the artist of the album, but I have no relationship, so I won't be able to do that there. So we also have the release date. That's true. So let's put that after the album. So release date, let's say that it's going to be basic text probably. So release date, or let's say like that column, and then we simply add the data that we want, which is the custom field here that we want. Boom, 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 boom. So release date. Here we go. It's gonna be a div. That's okay. If I wanted to put that in bold, I could have, but I would have to use a rich text. So let's refresh that. Now you see Abbey Road is a lot bigger. So we have the release date here, the description, and that's great. So I won't do the album archive, but we can do the same thing. Well, let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go back to the archive here since it can be a lot different than Breakdance. So let's do that. Let's edit my template here. I could delete everything and start from scratch, or I could simply add it under just to show the difference. So let's do that instead. Let's add another section here. And in that section, now I'm going to do the same thing as above, but with different. Let's put some spacing here. This time I'm going to do that using the query loop builder of Bricks. All right, so again, now I want to have content inside of it this time. So let's say I'm going to add a block. Let's do it this way. Insert block. That block is going to have my, probably that one is going to have my query loop. So let's do that. Like I said, tired and doing other things at the same time. So might have to do this a couple of times, but not because of bricks. So it's a post. The post type will be albums. Order by title ascending. And we say we want to have 6 per page. All right. So now let's add the content itself. So again, I'm going to do the same layout as what we had there. So let's add the image, which is going to be the featured image here. So you can see that we have all of them there. Sorry. Let's put that 300 by 300. Underneath that, I want to have, well, I already know that I don't want the layout like that. So I'm going to probably put that inside a div, or could be a block as well. Should I use a div? Let's go with a block. Anyway, and that's the item that's going to be repeated. So, okay, after my image, let's add the title. So post title. Add the opera, and then the description, which is in fact an excerpt. But since I don't have a real excerpt, it's going to create an excerpt for me. Oops. So data source, post content data source, WordPress bricks. Populate content. I should have done that. Is that okay? No. Yeah, okay. I don't have the extract. Okay. Maybe my mistake. If I say excerpt, is that the one that I need? Like I said, it's late. Okay, let's put that 20 like previously. And let's delete that one then. All right, okay. Now what I want is this block to be on 3 columns. So let's say that I want that to be 33 pixels or 33%, sorry. So if I say here, let's say block horizontal, one's gonna be needed anyway. So this one is gonna be, like I said, 33%. Maybe it's gonna be a little bit too much. But anyway. Okay, I need to go there and like wrap, because it takes the entire width by default. Is that the one? No, that's the one that I need to wrap, I think. I'm always mixed with. Okay, sorry, I reordered it. I didn't need the second block, so the first block is okay. So my container here, I need to specify that can wrap. Yeah. Notice a 3 column, and the direction, of course, need to be set to horizontal. And this is what this first level block here, the one that has the query loop on it, can have the 33%. Or I can simply, can I remove it? No, okay, maybe not. Let's say 30% instead, because we want to have some spacing between them. So that's going to be here in the container. I want to have some gap. So let's say a 30 pixel for column and row. So that means that I can put maybe 1 or 2 more% here. Yeah, 1%. It's going to be enough. All right. So now this is my other one. Let's create pagination with that as well. All right. So I'm gonna put that after. Come on. There we go. All right. Query, main query should be all right. Is that the main query or is the post query? Block query, I don't remember. Did it change? Okay, here we go. Now we see the pagination, the block query. Okay, I'm using the block here, so that's what I need. If I say main query, doesn't work, maybe because of the other query. If I say the posts, doesn't work as well. Well, now it works. Okay, so post should work, and maybe blocks because I'm using the blocks. Post is probably related to that one here at the top, so of course, this is not the one that I want. All right, so nothing really to change here. Maybe enable Ajax so that it doesn't reload the entire page each and every time. So let's save that and let's review it. So this is the first one that I created, the second one, and if I change pagination here, it does load just the number 2, page 2, not the first one because we are using Ajax, so it didn't refresh the entire page. So this is how we do that in Bricks. So I'm not usually an advanced custom field or ACF user. Usually use a Jet Engine or Toolset. Of course, I did use ACF from time to time, especially when some clients already uses it. Uh, sorry, but I saw that we can, even with the free version, we can still create relationships. So I went ahead and even though I said it in the first part of this section that I didn't want to do relation, I did some for the artist, the albums field. So one field that is a relationship for the albums and one for the songs as well. And I did one album, I think it was The Woman in Me, is the one that I didn't do that for all the albums, just for testing. So I linked the artist to it, and I linked the some songs. I don't remember all the songs on the album, but I did link some songs as well in this album. Now, honestly, I didn't find it as convenient to use as the other ones that I'm used to, Jet Engine and Toolset, where we can select in the relationship whether it's a one-to-one relationship, one to many, or many to many. We don't seem to have that option here. But anyway, we do have a relationship and we do have kind of support for that in Bricks as well. So let me go back to my template where I had the album, single album. So I do have my title, my image, my release date, and my content. Let's add after the release date who is the artist of that album. So in order to do that, I'm going to add another text, basic text for this one. I'm going to add it after my release date. So pretty easy how to do that. And I think I did it already, yeah, here. So same principle here. I'm going to add some text. So let's say artist. Maybe put it like that. And then I'm going to add the data itself. So if you scroll, you see that you have ACF, and there you have the relationships there as well. So the album artist will appear there. So here we go. Can add it there. And for the album, I'm going to also add the songs. So let's add another. Let's put a rich text format this time. And yeah, it's fine. Let's say that I want to put songs from the album. Whoops. Will be the title. Let's add that as an H2. I'm going to put that after the post content. And then I'm going to list the different songs. So if I click on that, I can insert the dynamic data. So again, album's song. Don't have all the information, for example, the length and things like that from the song. But anyway, we can use the relationship and that will show as well. And I don't know if I put that into, never tested if I put that into a list, what will it do? I guess it will put everything in the same list, but anyway, let's try. So let me save that and refresh here that album. So you see artist Shania Twain. You see I have a link to my Shania Twain artist, of course, which is the style. And I have the songs from the album. They're all jumbled together like that, but still it goes and get that information. Oops, not what I wanted to do. All right, so this is how we can also use relationship, at least ACF. I did that with Jet Engine, way more advanced than that as well. So I know that it does work with that as well. So there's probably other ways to do it as well. If we wanted to have everything in a list, for example, maybe using a div or something like that to have a loop again. So anyway, now let's take a look at Breakdance. Okay, so now let's check what we can do with Breakdance with custom post types. So again, I have the same thing as I have in Breakdance and Brick, sorry, where I have my album, artist, song, and I did create relationships with custom fields as well. And I'm using ACF with CPT UI to create those. So I'm going to start by creating the single album archive, not archive, but template, sorry. Right now, if I want to see, for example, an album, we're going to do the ones for the album, just like we did with bricks. So let's open this one, let's say, you. So default one is just the content. We don't have the image, we don't have the title, we don't have anything. So let's go and create one. So into Breakdance, let's create a template, or let's go into templates. And let's create a new one. So let's click on add template. We have single products, shop archive, product archive, single post, and so on. So we can use one of those and modify it later. But since it's none of those that we want, it's maybe shorter to simply add a custom one. So custom template, read the documentation, of course, and then click OK. I'm going to call that single album. And that applies to single, and we're going to select albums right there. We don't need to add any specific conditions in this particular case, so I'm going to click on Add Template. Then we're going to click on Edit and Breakdance. I'm going to open that in a new tab. I'll put that one there and come back to it later once I've created it. So I like to have my structure panel open, and let's click on Add. So we can add any element here and use the dynamic element inside of it. And we're going to do that later on. as you will see. But we also have a bunch of things that we have here in the dynamic section already created for us. So single thing here, let's add our post title, for example. And though I think it's already by default on H1, let's make sure by selecting an H1 there. And as you can see, we are previewing the single album, but we can also select which one that we see. So in this particular case, since I selected album before, it shows only albums, but you can decide which one you want to preview. And of course, this will update as well. Here we go. So let's go with the title, then put the image under, let's say. So I'm going to add right there. So post feature image. And I'm going to change the size. This one is really big, so they're going to all be 300 by 300. Can change the caption, alt, anything if I want to. Enable lazy load, which is not usually the case at the top of the page. And of course, we have the regular styling options and so on. So let's keep it like that. I'm going to add now, I can add the content because that's for the entire album. So let's add content here, post content. And again, everything is right there, position, everything is laid out perfectly. We don't have any options beside, of course, the styling options, but that's okay. Now let me add another one, and you will see here there's no custom fields. So all of those are regular WordPress fields, but if you remember, albums add one custom field, which is the release date. And we don't have any custom fields listing there. Widget is the WordPress widget, so we don't have that anywhere there. So what we're going to do for that one, we're going to use what we want to show. In this particular case, just a regular text. Let's add it after that one. So rich text if you want to have formatting, but let's go with a regular text here. And instead of using that, I'm going to click on that little dynamic icon that I mentioned before. Click on that, and there you see the list of everything that you can put there. Let's go to the ACF section and click on released date. It's going to replace the entire box, so don't type any content before. It's going to be removed anyway. So now I have my date. I'm going to click on that little arrow here to have the advanced option. And I can put some text before, after, or some default text if it's not visible. So I'm going to simply select released date here, column space. I won't add any append or fallback. If it's not there, it will simply not be visible, and that's all. So that's all I need for, of course, I can create columns and so on. I don't necessarily want that here. So let's click on save. Pretty easy to build. Now it takes a little while. I should see the release date here at some point. But anyway, let's preview that album by refreshing. Site is a little bit slow. I don't know why. It doesn't have anything to do with Breakdance. Instead, WP usually has a really fast server, so maybe there's something going on right now, or there's something behind the scene on my computer. Right, so hopefully now it's going to be a little bit faster. So I have my title, I have my image, content, and the release date here. Of course, I can handle a little bit of spacing below and above that content, for example. Now the little problem here, you see I have my tab right there. So when I try to move here for the size, unfortunately, I cannot see the number that is there. So that is a little issue here. I'll have to go directly in the spacing here, and sure enough, this is exactly what I wanted, but that's not necessarily, that's just, I was just lucky. All right, so let me save that. So that's for the album. Now let's create a template for the archive. So all albums like we did. Now, of course, my reflex, like probably for you, would be to go and create another template. Go to template here, say, let's say all albums. And you will see that we have singles here. We have archives, so all archives. And we don't have albums there. We don't have artists. We don't have anything like that. So that's pretty strange, honestly. And we can create a post type archive and use the albums as the source. That would work, but it will use the default query loop, which is always from uh, filtered. Sorry, not filtered, but ordered. This is the term that I was searching for. It will always be ordered by date from last to first. And if you try to change the query loop, it will simply tell you that you cannot do that into an archive and that it will use the default WordPress one. So this is not the way, strangely, this is not the way to do it uh, in Breakdance. We can do that for a single element, but not for an archive. I don't know why. But anyway, so let's cancel that. So the way that we need to do that, and they tell you that in the documentation and the videos, is to create, first of all, a listing and then put it into a regular page instead of a template. Well, that's the way to do it. Anyway, so let's go into global blocks and see global blocks. If you've ever used, for example, Croto blocks from Jet Engine, Jet Engine from Cocoa blocks, I should say, you can create listings, whether you use Elementor or Gutenberg, you can create listings. So that's a bit of the same thing. So what we create in the global blocks can be a lot of things, but let's focus on the listing right now for the archives. So what we will create is one element, one tiny element, and we're going to reproduce that many times through the page. So let's add a global block here. And let's say I'm going to call that album listing because it makes me think about a listing just like in Block. And I'm going to edit that in Breakdance. By the way, in Breakdance, pretty easy to go from one element to the other, just like you can do with Control E in Elementor, for example. But unfortunately, we cannot add a new one like we can do with Bricks, for example. So I need to always get out and create a new one. Unless there's something that I don't know, but from what I see, we cannot create new elements from there. So anyway, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to put the image, the title, and then the excerpt. So again, I could use the dynamic elements here. So I'm going to put the featured image. And then again, we can decide what we want to show here. So let's say if we use, I don't know, the woman in me. Let's use that one as the preview. I'm going to put the same size for the image. That's the maximum size. So this one is smaller, surely. I'm going to add after that the title. And finally, the excerpt. Well, the title will not be, by the way, in H1. It's going to be in H2, a little bit smaller. And let's add the excerpt. So post excerpt. And we don't seem to have control over the length of the excerpt. And that's pretty strange. I didn't see any option anywhere where we can change the length of the extract here. So of course, if you know somewhere, just put it in the comments below. But I didn't see any way to change that extract. Maybe it's in the WordPress settings itself, or I didn't see any breakdown settings for that. But anyway, we don't have it here in the specific element. So let's click on save. And now I'm gonna need to go back because I didn't open that into a new tab. So I'll have to go back and let's close that one. And now create a page. So let's add a new page. This one's gonna be let's say all albums, or I could say albums title, albums archive, sorry. I'm gonna publish that. I think we don't need to do it. We can go directly with edit and breakdance, but anyway, let's click on edit and breakdance. I'd like to see an option to keep that always open. But anyway. All right, so now what I want here is a listing of all my albums. So what I'm going to do is still use the same post loop builder that we have here. But this time, since we are inside a page, we will be able to use a query loop. We absolutely need to choose a global block. That's like our listing, like I said. So might be a little bit strange if you're not used to that, but that gives you more control. If you come from the Crockerbot world, of course, you're already used to that. So that's why I created it first. So album listing here, we can edit it directly from there. And of course, a preview here doesn't mean anything. And we can just edit that page. Here we cannot preview the other one, but that's okay. Let's go in the query, and this is where we're going to decide what we see there anyway. So we can have text or array, but we're going to use a custom query in our case. So let's exit the query. And by default, as you can see, it uses post. So we have the choice between post types and related. So in our case, we want a post type, which are the albums. So let's click on albums, and we can add more than one if we wanted to, as you can see. How many items per page? Let's put that to 6 like we did previously. Total post, all of them, so no numbers there. No conditions, so you can add conditions here, you can offset and so on. I'm going to simply order them by title, alphabetical order. So let's go with title and ascending and all the dates. And I'm going to click on apply query. And now you can see that it works perfectly fine. That's okay. I have my 6th album. So let's click on that. Well, let's go with pagination first, since I'm already in the first one. So we have the choice between no pagination, numbers, previous and next, or both of them, or a load more button to load in the same page. We click on a load more button, it loads underneath it. Or infinite scroll means that when you scroll, when you're at the bottom, it will automatically load the rest. So you will see your scroll bar on the right side going smaller and smaller. So that's up to you. We have a lot of options here. So let's go with number and next, like we did with bricks. We already have the default text of previous and next, so I'm going to leave it by default. And we can show all page numbers if we wanted to, but we have just a few anyway. So now let's go to my styling here. So in the list, I have the choice between the layout, which is the list by default. We have a grid or slider. We could use a slider here. Interesting. But let's use the traditional one, which is a grid. And we always see an error here, by the way. It doesn't really change anything. Works perfectly fine, but I don't know why we still have that error. And I think I'm not the only one, because I saw somebody else having that issue, and I think that they're working on it. So maybe when you see that video, that will have been solved. So items per row, this is where we want to have our 3 columns right there. And we go to one item at, let's say, tablet portrait. So now if we have tablet landscape, it's going to be 3 by default, and tablet portrait, we have 1. Of course, it could be phone landscape if you prefer. In fact, let's see, tablet portrait. I think I'm going to put that to phone landscape. Yeah. And we can anyway change that. So for tablet landscape, I'm going to put 2 columns here instead of 3. Well, this one is still all right. So let's go with tablet portrait. I'm going to put 2. There we go. So on desktop, tablet landscape, always 3. And on tablet portrait, we have 2. And then we have 1 automatically for phone landscape and phone portrait. Perfectly fine. All right, so this is what I want. Let's save that. Don't forget that now this is a page. So I'm going to show here all albums. And here we go. So we have a list of our albums. We have our next next page button. But now we didn't put any link on those. doesn't add them automatically. So let's go back here. We don't have that option here anyway. We don't have here in the post. So we don't have any options for that. But if I go back to my global block, I'm going to edit one block and I'm going to put the links there. So let's click on that to edit back just the listing or one element. So we have a preview of the woman and me. So what I'm going to do on my image, I'm going to add the link, and on my title as well, not the course, not the text itself, of course. So my image here, let's say the link, I'm going to click on that and specify that the link will be a URL. We don't want to see that image. And for the link here, I'm going to use the URL, that button, dynamic button that is there. So I'm going to click on that and use my post permalink. So now we'll be able to click on the image to go to the actual post. If I want to do that for the text as well, the title, I don't have this option. But what I could do, instead of using the post title that I used already, I'm going to leave it there for now. I can add a text link here instead and simply use the title as the text here. So let's click on the dynamic icon, use post title here. You see everything's fine. Change the looks. I'm going to use the tag H2. Now they are pretty similar except the color underlined in blue. So I'm going to simply go to my style and in my typography, change the color. Let's say if I go back to black and remove the underline, will simply be in advanced, and the decoration will be set to none. And here we go. So now I can remove that one. It's going to be the same thing, but this time we have a link on the title. So let me save that, refresh that page. Now I can click on any image or any title to go to the exact, whoop, looks like I forgot to put the link on my title. So my mistake here. So I did put the text, but I didn't change the default breakdance here. So again, let's click on that little dynamic one and use the post permalink again. Save that. And let's refresh. So here we go. Abbey Road, Abbey Road. If I click on one or the other, I'm going to go to the Abbey Road album. Great. Now, if I go there and try to change the album, so one thing that I didn't do, I don't know if I can do it that there, single album. Yep. Can edit from there. One thing that I didn't do that I did in Bricks was using relationships. So unfortunately, I didn't find any way to create relationships. So for example, if I want to put my artist before or after the release date, let's say after, if I click on add here, I don't have anything like that in my dynamic options, of course. So again, if I do like previously and I use a text, click on my dynamic icon, as opposed to what we had in Bricks, we don't have anything here for relationships. If I go to my ACF section, for example, I have my release date and that's all. So the custom fields for that specific element, that specific type here. And even if I change that for all instead of string, you see that some things are repeated. Don't know exactly why, but anyway. I do have custom field here, but only returns video, it says. Custom field returns video. That's why it's grayed out, probably. But anyway, custom field here, same thing. So don't know why it's there twice. We have custom field here, okay. But if I click there, the key should be the artist. So maybe, let me just check one thing. If I go back to my bricks one, you see the, I don't know what is, so let's use something similar to that to see if it will work in Breakdance. I didn't test that. So you will see live We'll see it live with me. Let's forget about the curly brackets for now. Let's say in advance, I'm going to prepend that. So artist, let's sit like that. Let's see if that works. So we do have artist, but it's empty. Let's try again with the. I don't know if Breakdance has some uh, way to do it, special way to do it. Let's keep those curly brackets, curly braces anyway. Save and let's refresh that. No, it doesn't seem to work. So I would need to look into the documentation. But anyway, the default video didn't specify anything about relationships, so just went with regular, simple custom fields. So my assumption is that it simply doesn't support it, at least for now. Of course, it can change over time. So if that's the case, I'm going to have to remove that. Same thing for the songs. So no relationship seems to be available right now, but besides that, pretty easy to use to do what you want to do. Just less advanced field. So, in conclusion, who's the clear winner? Well, we'll take a look at different points and you'll make up your decisions for yourself. But let's look at a few things. So, first of all, what they both share in common. Both are very well built. They are good builder. Both of them are good builders, and reasons why they are good builders and easy to use and so on. We'll see that later on. But both are fast to load, fast to use when we use them in the browser, and they are also fast in the sense that they provide high score when we do performance tests. In fact, we did a page builder fight club a few months ago, and Bricks was the one with the highest score of them all. Uh, some had higher scores, for example, on loading speed. Some had higher score in performance. But if we do an average of both of them, Bricks had the highest score. Now, we need to say, though, that in that time, I think the challenge started before Breakdance was officially released in beta. And after that, during the challenge, it was released, but it was still beta, and they had some problems with the system, not necessarily Breakdance itself, but the system with Breakdance. So we never used Breakdance for the test finally. But I did some testing using, and if you've seen my channel, you've seen the videos maybe where I compare a landing page that I built with many builders, and you will see that Breakdance and Breaks have very similar scores, and even as good or even better than what I had with Gutenberg, for example. So they are good builder, both of them. Now, also on the downside, let's say it like that, both have some downsides, if we can say it like that. First of all, both are fairly new. So the future or long-term stability or lifespan, if you prefer, is still unknown in the sense that will they work? Will they have enough people? For example, right now, Bricks is an LTD. So long term, will they have enough revenue to stay updated and so on? Breakdance example, we have Oxygen that has been, well, they won't say that it replaced Oxygen, but of course, a lot of things that were asked for Oxygen are now integrated into Breakdance instead. So, what will happen? Some tools like Beaver Builder, Elementor have been there for years, so we know that they will still be there for the next years to come. But how about those? So, of course, we take a gamble. We do think that they will be there for the long term, but we never know. Okay. In a way, shows that probably others will come. Those two build. There are many new builders that come out each and every year. We can say There has been Zion and a couple of others lately, and of course those two. And each time, in a certain way, anyway, in my opinion, they have improved something. They are better at something. So this is the case. For example, if we compare that with Elementor, both Bricks and Breakdance, in my opinion, are better in many areas. Not in some others, though, by the way, but you've seen the video. So, by the way, the video has been made for many weeks. So, sorry if there's some differences from one to the other. But anyway, so probably a new builder will come out in 2023 and probably another one in 2024 and so on. So, will we change each time there's a new one that is better coming out? And of course, I hope the answer is no. And that's one of the reasons many people switch to Gutenberg, because they say that's the future, because of course, this one is there to stay. But again, I prefer, in my case, page builders, but we must not change every time a new one, of course, comes out. So do we jump in, or we wait for the next one that will maybe be better and correct the bad, if we can say it like that, areas of those two builders, if they have any? So we don't know. So really always a gamble in a certain way. Of course, these are new, so not every bug and compatibility issues have been fixed. For example, Bricks has been there for a little more than a year now. Of course, beta at first, but anyway. And it's still not compatible with WPML. It is in the work if we look at the roadmap, but it's still not officially compatible. RankMet, I think, is also in progress right now, and SEO Press and others as well. So you might encounter here and there, and of course, Breakdance is the same probably. You will encounter here and there some plugins that might not work with one or both of those builders. And that's okay. That's expected. Yeah, we can say it like that. This is expected. Sorry, but that's it when you work with a new builder. And that's why I personally haven't used any of those two builders yet on a real client project. I expect to do that with Bricks pretty soon, but I've been working with Bricks since its release for testing and so on, but never in a real project so far. Why? Because I wait for those bugs to be fixed. So that's something to keep in mind, of course. Both, unfortunately, are not really focused on accessibility, but unfortunately, that's the case for most of the builders. So we've seen a video lately that has been released on accessible menus, and they speak of Bricks and Breakdance, among others. And yeah, they're not the best one. Bricks is a little bit better in some area, but worse in others. And Breakdance didn't pass it at all. And that's the second support ticket that I sent them, by the way. You see that later on the video. But anyway, so they're not focused on accessibility, let's be honest. But hopefully that will change over time. Also, let's not forget that they are new builders first. Secondly, about all the page builders are like that. Honestly, this is one of the things that this video revealed. No page builder are really focused on accessibility. Maybe Gutenberg is a little bit better, but still not there yet anyway. So there's some work to do there, unfortunately, but that's the case for both. Now, also, one thing that I must also specify, Breakdance are clearly established itself as a replacement of Elementor, or as they also say, Elementor on steroid. So Breakdance has established itself, and I even heard that when it was in beta. Will you have that thing? Well, Elementor doesn't have it, so we don't expect to have it. Okay, so they're really targeting at getting people from Elementor to go to Breakdance. On the other side, Bricks has not clearly targeted a specific competitor. When I saw it the first time, when it began, I saw it as an Elementor replacement. But after a few changes, when they released the container, I think it was 1.2 or something like that. Whoops, sorry. I thought I had turned that off, but anyway. So when they released that, I saw it as an Elementor competitor, but not long after that, when they removed the while Bricks has not clearly targeted a specific competitor. So when it was released, I saw that as an Elementor competitor. Uh, it was closer to that one than most of the others. But when they released, I think it was in 1.2 or something like that, they released the container 1.1, 1.2. Now I clearly saw that they were more targeting something like Oxygen at that time, for example. So they didn't clearly target one specific builder. And a lot of Oxygen user went to Oxygen after Breakdown was announced because of that, because it was seen as a replacement of Oxygen. But that's what people say, not Brick's team itself. So that's the difference between the two. Breakdance clearly targeting Elementor. Bricks simply tries to be itself, if I can say it like that, and make its place among all the page builders. So now the pricing. First item I wanted to check. I have some categories here that I want to check to compare them. I'll show them all what they can do side by side. Now I want to compare them on different topics. So for the pricing, Bricks currently has an LTD, lifetime deal. So if you buy bricks right now, you will buy it for a specific price and you pay once, that's all. Also, bricks comes with two choices: license for one website or unlimited website. By the way, just to make it clear, when it was released, it was 1,000 websites, but they changed that later for unlimited website. And those, of course, who already added have unlimited websites as well. Breakdance, on the other side, has only a yearly unlimited license. So, no one site license. Some people think that it's really bad for that because if they want each client to buy their own license, or if you, as a client, you only want to build your site yourself and buy one license, you can't. You buy the whole package, no other choice. So that's one thing for some people that can be problematic. Of course, for developers, not necessarily. That's the difference. Breakdance now has recently released a 30 days trial. So now you can try Breakdance. Of course, both Bricks and Breakdance have a demo that you can play with, but it's not the same thing as testing it with your own things. So now Breakdance has a 30 days trial, which Bricks doesn't have. So can help some people make the choice. Both have a refund policy, by the way. Breakdance has a 60-day refund policy. Right now, Bricks, I think at the beginning, has a 30-day release refund policy, but as long as the LTD is live, that pricing or that refund policy will stay on. In other words, if you buy it today, and it takes 6 months, let's say, before they get out of beta, let's say it like that, because version 1.5.6 right now, as we speak, it's not necessarily beta, but they still consider it as beta in a certain way, not stable enough for them. So as long as it's like that, as long as the LTD is there, you will be able to refund. So even if they release in 6 months, for example, version 2, let's say, and now they remove the LTD, in 5 months, you will be able to refund. So cannot be better than that. By the way, let's check that for together. So again, bricks on the left side, breakdance on the right side. So bricks, you have $79 for one website, lifetime deal, but it would be $99. Why do they put it like that? Well, because in a couple of weeks from now, on November 11th, this will rise to $99 for one website. And then breakdance, bricks. For unlimited site, it's now $199 and it's going to be risen to $249. It's going to raise to $249 in few weeks. And they were probably going to do that a couple of times until they release the final version, which will not have any LTD. So it's really already planned, by the way, since the beginning, that the LTD is only for a period of time. After that, it's going to be a yearly thing. So what we'll discuss right now will not be the case in maybe a year from now. Now they say test it at your own pace, so they don't put any numbers anymore. But until they have enough initial feedback. So when will they have enough? I don't think they're going to pull the plug without warning the user. It's been 2 times since they released the not the release, but they raised the price 2 times. Okay, and each time they give at least 3 to 4 weeks in advance of warning. So it's surely going to be the same thing for when they decide that it's enough and they remove the LTD. No problem with that. My personal feeling, since we already have 1.5 released, is that it's probably going to be with version 2, I guess. But I don't know. That's just an assumption. What will be the yearly price after that? Nobody knows for now. Breakdance, on the other side, is still in the launch period. So for now, it's 149 yearly, unlimited site, only one license. One type of license, I should say, so not one website. So unlimited website, 149 yearly, and it will be 349 after the launch period. When will that be? We don't know. But probably we'll wait until Bricks changes its pricing. Probably something like that. But anyway, that's just an assumption then again. If you are an Oxygen user, you have uh, also a year free. So you have probably already received it. So you have a year free. So you can still buy that at this price to make sure that you lock that price, because it will be locked, by the way. It's not just for the first year. It's for many years. That don't say exactly indefinitely. So could mean forever, or could mean that it's not defined simply. But anyway, let's say that it's forever. So if you buy it right now, after that it's going to be 349, and there's no promise that it won't be raised, of course, at some point. Um, Also, I do have other products from there, and I was able to have a discount then. So they told me not necessarily to publicly mention it. So I won't mention the product or the rebate. But if you have other products from them, you might have additional rebate as well. So that's what we have for now in terms of pricing. So personally, I think that for now, this point, Bricks is the winner here because of the LTD that is still going on. So of course, some will say that it's not a good thing because of course, when you have an LTD, that means no long-term revenue. But again, it was stated from the start that Bricks will be yearly at some point. And this is where we will know, by the way, if Bricks have a good support, if they continue on, or if slowly they start losing people because there's no more LTD. So, of course, the fact that they currently have an LTD brings people in a lot. But will they use it for long term? That's another thing. All right. The ease of use. You've seen me use it just basically, but a couple of things like WooCommerce, the interface, and so on, and also with custom post type. So, which one is easier to use? So, let's go with Bricks. Bricks is easy to use, but less easy, honestly, than Breakdance. And if you watch other videos that I've made, for example, the landing page one, you see that I mentioned something about that. Breakdance is really easy. You click on something, it appears right away. You don't need to drag and drop it in the right spot, first of all, and it is automatically selected. So it speeds up the development. So Bricks is easy to use, but a little bit less than Breakdance in that regard, especially for new users or clients, of course, that won't use it on a regular basis. They say it's targeted for more advanced user. And when I say they say, it's not the Bricks team, it's not Thomas, but people say that it's more targeted toward more advanced user and developers. Those might prefer that one over Breakdance, okay? Because it has more advanced feature, and we'll talk about that later on. Breakdance, among the easiest to use. I've used many page builder, and that's probably the easiest at least one of the easiest one that I've used so far. So really easy to use. Uh, Not a big fan of the panel. I'm used to Elementor and bricks that have two columns with bigger icons and so on. But then again, once you start to use the search feature, that goes really well. And like I said, all the rest, a lot easy to use. Of course, if you accept, there are less clicks and all options available, just like I mentioned. When you click something, it has it automatically where you are, and also shows the properties right away of that element. You don't have to click it again, just like in bricks, for example, if you don't mind sometime having to go deep. Because like I said, it has all the options, but sometimes you have to do 4 or 5 clicks to go to that specific option that you want. But the things that you use frequently, they are faster to use and easier to use. So winner here, it's pretty close a tie, honestly. Uh, some might want like one or the other more, but for me, it's pretty close for tie. But if I need to choose one, absolutely, I'll have to say that it's Breakdance. It's easier to use, it's faster. I really enjoyed building the landing page with it. It was a lot faster. Not necessarily in terms of timer, by the way, because you saw that remove maybe a minute or two among the others, but still easier to use. And if we have bigger pages, that will add up, of course. The range of features. Third feature or element to check is the what I call the range of features. What I mean by that is the number of elements or widgets, if you prefer, that they include right now, the number of elements that comes with it. So let's start with bricks first. So personally, I feel like there is more possibilities, but less widgets and elements for now in bricks. What I mean by that is that I feel that bricks is a little bit more advanced in some area. For example, that well, I'm going to talk about that later. So yeah, there are more possibilities. That's why they say sometimes that it's more developer oriented, which I don't necessarily agree because of course it's still easy to use for someone that is fairly beginner. But yes, developer might like it more, like I said previously. But there are less widgets or elements for now with it. For example, I'm used to use pop-ups with Elementor. We don't have that in bricks right now. I know they are working on it, but we don't have it for now. And there are a few other elements like that as well. So in that area, well, it's lacking a little bit compared to, for example, Breakdance. That being said, more possibilities because also, for example, it has already a lot of add-ons. A little bit like Elementor in a certain way, not as much, of course. But yes, we have add-ons. It supports add-ons, and we already have at least 5 or 6 that I can count on right away that are available already for bricks. So this is a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you see it. Of course, that expands the things that it can do. But of course, just like Elementor, for example, too many add-ons can mean that it can slow down your site and can have conflicts. And some people are a little bit afraid that bricks will become like that. That once we do an update, because it has happened with Elementor, not to mention it, but when we do updates, it breaks other plugins and things like that. So that's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. Okay, so it does have add-ons, which can be a really good thing, but of course, like always, like with Elementor, don't use too many add-ons. If you use 1 or 2 add-ons, that's the most. But if you don't need to have add-ons, then don't add them. In other words, add add-on, choose the best one for you, and use it when necessary, not on every website that you build. Personal opinion on that. Bricks does support also CSS variables. I don't think it's the case with Breakdance, for example. I didn't see it. So if you know about CSS variable or less and don't remember SAS or something like that. So if you know about those things, you can use them in bricks. So that's another example. Also, I feel that the query builder is more advanced. So you saw that also in the video. And for example, the CPT was supporting relationships and so on, which was not the case in Breakdance. So I feel that in that regard, it's a little bit more advanced. Now for Breakdance, the range of features, it has all the gadgets that we might want. Everything that Elementor Pro, for example, has, it does have it. Pop-ups, forms with the data submitted inside of it and things like that. It has everything. But maybe less deep in the possibilities. What I meant by that is what I just mentioned. No add-ons for now. Is it because it is new, or is it harder for developers to create add-ons for it? Time will tell us. But right now, I don't know of any add-ons that it does support. And integration. We know that Bricks right now, I think that CrocoBlock is working closely with them. They are supporting Jet Engine in different areas. My personal opinion, don't quote me on that, is that they are also working with them to integrate fully CrocoBlock, just like they did in Elementor. So that's just an assumption. It's not the case with tools like Breakdance. So, but don't forget, Bricks was officially released in March 2021 from memory. So it's about 1 year and a half now, though it was more in beta at the beginning. Breakdance has been released only for a couple of months. So that's for sure a lot younger. So maybe in a year from now, things will be different. In fact, if I understood right, Breakdance is more for designers and less advanced developers. And I'm not comparing that to Bricks here. I'm more comparing that to Oxygen, because you probably already know that Oxygen and Breakdance are both from the same company, the same developers at the beginning anyway. And Lewis, the developer, said at some point that they want to keep Oxygen, of course, but they are sure that more advanced users are going to still prefer to work with Oxygen. But some will move to Breakdance, some will have both. And of course, new users that already are using Elementor, that's why they are targeting Elementor user, could prefer Breakdance over Oxygen even then. So when you want to have something really custom, when you want to have something really advanced, they will tell you go with Oxygen. If not, then Breakdance is all right. It is for you. So I think that's the meaning, that's the thinking, sorry, behind those tools. I come back with Bricks. From the beginning, Bricks had said, the developer has said that they wanted it to be shaped by the user. So they released it with few things, and they asked the user to give their feedback. They already had some ideas, but they were really working with the user's feedback to know what to implement first and how they want it to be implemented. So it has some consequences. First one could be good. It feels like they have a less complete product, which they constantly to which they constantly had new things. So it feels like sometimes it's still in beta, and that's why it's still an LTD on their website. Like they say, they feel that it needs to be improved, and they tell that themselves. They themselves release it as not a finished product. So that's not an insult to say that it's so. So you need to be aware of that when you buy it. So it has a result of having less feature out of the box when it was released, and they slowly add them. But because of that, it may be closer to what their user need or want. Now, I say maybe in capital letters because, of course, that doesn't mean that because 400 people voted that they want a feature that everybody's going to need it. So, of course, and more we advance, the less important feature are starting to be implemented as well because, of course, the most important one have been implemented. Another example, pop-ups is in working right now. It's in progress. Will possibly be released with next version, I guess, something like that. So, of course, somebody like me will be happy for that, but some other people don't want it at all. So, they are afraid that each time we had a new feature, it's gonna be more bloated, even though it's not bloated for now anyway. But that's always they are always afraid of that. So of course, doesn't mean that because a feature is added that everybody's going to use it. So not everybody wants for the same feature, of course. But let's say it's closer to what the majority want. Let's say it like that. On the other side, Breakdance, on the other side, spent 3 years on building it before releasing it. So it's not a new product. It's a new product that was released, but they've been working on it for many years. Maybe, and I just say maybe, even before Bricks. I don't know. So they've been working on it for 3 years. It's a polished final product. It is a final product. It feels like a final product. Of course, there can be some bugs here and there. That's always like that, especially at the beginning with a new product, but it feels more complete. It has a lot more widget or elements already included as well. But it follows the vision of the developers, Lewis and his team. Whether you see it as a good or bad thing is up to you. Some will say it's good, some will say it's bad. But what I mean is that it's less uh, the user themselves that have voted for things. Yes, they do have a roadmap right now, which was not the case with Oxygen, but still, they already have added what they think was best. Okay. So the future, maybe in the future, it will start to become like bricks in that area, but it's not for now. And again, whether it's a good or bad thing for you, that's up to you. But a good example of that is the way that we created the album archive in the templates. So remember what we used to do in Elementor, what we did in Bricks was create a new template for the album archive. But in Breakdance, we were able to create a template for the album, the single album. But for the archive, we couldn't. We had to create a page. And some people will prefer to create a page, but other people will not prefer that. With bricks, we have the choice. With breakdance, we need to follow the other pattern of creating a page and then inserting the element inside of it, the listing or global element, if you prefer, inside of it. So that's one way to do it. Some people will like it, some people will not, but you don't have the choice. So that's one example here of following the dev's vision. And I'm not saying that it's necessarily bad. If you have the same vision as he does, then you're perfectly happy with that, of course. If not, you can always write to them and hope that they can change things or add some more options. I'm not saying that they won't do it. So, is there a winner here? Well, I would say that for breakdance would be more targeted or interesting for what I would call junior developers, so less advanced developers, people that are designers, or for building quick sites. And that's what they aim at. If they are aiming at Elementor users, that's the type of people that use Elementor. If you are a more advanced developer, then Bricks will be more attractive to you, I think, with the features that it has. Okay. That doesn't mean that you cannot use both. It doesn't mean that you can use, for example, Breakdance for small side, Bricks for more advanced side, or that you can start with Breakdance and when you're more comfortable, switch to Bricks or anything like that. And of course, with Bricks, you can build simple site as well. Really up to you. Um, okay. The support, last point. Bricks, I've never had to contact the support team. I talked with Thomas at the beginning when it was released and so on, and before it was released, I talked with him a lot. But now it seems today Thomas is very was very present, like I said in the beginning, in the Facebook group and so on. Not as much nowadays. We don't see Thomas posting too much. He posts, of course, when there are new releases, things like that, but I don't see him answering users' question and so on. It's left to the community. And that's okay. That's perfectly fine, by the way. And that's the way that many groups are built. Our groups is built like that as well. We try to answer the questions, but there's a lot of people. We keep it freely available. Let's, if I can say it like that, many people can express themselves. So because of that, a lot of people can help each other. So that's how it works. So, not saying that the support is bad. Never had to use the support. Thomas is less present, but Thomas is only the developer, the head over all of that. So that doesn't mean that you don't have other type of support. It's just that I cannot really comment on how good or bad the support is. I know that Thomas was really open to a lot of things at the beginning, by the way, so I don't think it has changed. Probably has just less time. Breakdance. I had to reach the support twice. Well, one thing was really a support issue where I didn't know how to do things. I would say three times even that I wrote on the Facebook group. The other time was simply about the video on accessibility. So instead of posting it on their Facebook group, I said to myself, they would probably prefer that I just talk to them privately about that. So that's what I did. Both time I had an answer during 24 hours. I think the last time it took a couple of more days, but it was a Friday, so that's perfectly fine on a on a weekend, of course. So usually answer in 24 hours. The only thing, though, is that the first time that I asked a question, I got an answer pretty quickly, but then I replied to that and never got an answer. So I don't know if we are limited, if they never got my reply or what. But after the first reply, never heard back from them for that particular topic. So won't say that it's always like that, but it did happen to me. Louis Ringgold is the developer behind Oxygen, though Elijah is more the one that takes care of it now. And he's also the brain or the developer behind Breakdance. He's a lot more active on the Facebook group. He responds to comments, post videos, and so on. He's a lot more active right now as we currently speak. However, sorry to say that, but I don't really like the way that he or maybe other, if I don't know if I can take breakdance as a whole here, sometimes respond to their user and don't forget that the user is also their clients. I won't say the words here, but sometimes I saw video or I saw reply when he really answers strangely. I know that sometimes you can be exhausted, and sometimes his excuse, if I can say it like that, was, well, you don't know what's behind it. We already talked a lot to them, so it's just the tip of the iceberg. Maybe, but using this tone, using this type of words, for me is unacceptable when you're talking to your customers. Personal opinion. I know that some people approve it and they have a high thumbs up and things like that when he replies like that. So they probably approve the way that he answers. But always feel that you're talking to your customer that pays you to do something. So please answer in a polite manner. Okay. That's my opinion. And personally, I really feel that they over filter their Facebook group. I don't even know if I'll be able to post that video on the group. I think I'll be able, but will it stay there? That's another thing. Each time that I wrote on their Facebook group, it got removed. I always got a reason, so they did reply to what I was writing, but still they removed it. And when they feel that there's too much comment on one topic, they remove a lot of comments that they feel are not good comments. For example, bad answers to a question or things like that. So, in my opinion, and that's a personal opinion, even then, I feel that they since how do we say that? Let me find the word. Well, it's the censorship. So they do that a little bit too much for me. So they decide what is good, what is not good. They decide what they want on their Facebook, and that's okay. That is their Facebook group. They can decide what they want. But I feel it's not open enough. And I've heard a lot of people saying, well, I got banned from the group or groups, if there are more than one, just because I said this thing. So maybe they will tell you, yes, we have warned them many times. Maybe, but anyway, I've heard that from many people that I feel are good Facebook users. They are part of our groups. They are doing perfectly fine, perfectly well. One is even one of the uh, not administrator, but anyway, moderator in our group. So what did they get banned? Maybe I'm even gonna get banned because of what I'm saying right now. Don't know. It's possible. So this is something that I don't like. Always having the fear of saying, will I be banned for what I'm saying here? For that question or that opinion that I'm having? Do they filter that everybody thinks breakdance is great just because everybody that thinks that it's not great, they have banned them? I don't know. This is not the type of life that I want to live. This is not the type of product that I'm comfortable with. And that's the reason, unfortunately, I'll have to give the winner for bricks on that point for support. Support for breakdance, like I said, was good, was fast, was great. But this type of answer sometimes, or this type of filtering on the Facebook group that I feel is pretty much too much, that's the reason that I need to give bricks the higher point on that. So just want to make sure they do have good support. It's not like some other tools that I won't mention that takes days or months to reply. But again, I feel like sometimes they're not polite enough, not take enough into account that they're talking to their customers, one, and secondly, filter too much on Facebook, too much. I appreciate that they filter. We do filter, but sometimes it's, for me, exaggerated. And some people are still have hard time with what happened between Oxygen and Breakdance. I'm not really part of them, to be honest, but I know that some people still are upset, let's say, about the fact that they asked for a lot of feature in Oxygen that were never made and that are available in Breakdance. I get the reason why, but more or less like the answer that I've heard. Uh, I won't repeat it here, but anyway. So because of that, I would say if Louis, you ever hear about that video, just take that as a good criticism to improve yourself, improve on that. I feel that you have really great products. I really like the way that you think a lot of times, and I do agree with you on many points. It's just not a way to say it to your customers. That's the only thing. Okay, so if you can be a little bit more careful on that, it would be great. And that's the conclusion. And that's why sometimes some people will say, I don't want breakdance just because of that, because I never know what's going to happen. When will I be kicked out because I said something that they didn't like or something like that? So that's something that is really major. Um, some people, and including me, maybe, I don't know, will never use breakdance just because of that, because they don't know if something will happen in 6 months and they'll be banned or something like that. I want to come back to another point about pricing, by the way, that I forgot. That was not in those. Um, think that for now, of course, since breakdance or brick, sorry, as an LTD, you pay once. Right now, personally, I am locked with Elementor Pro for months or years to come, even if I stop using it, because I want to update the site of my clients. So with Breakdance, it's going to be the same thing. Bricks later on as well when it comes yearly. So you need to know to think that if you go with a yearly product, you will have to still pay it, even if you are retreat or if you stop using that product, if you want to have good support for your clients. Especially something like Elementor, because you have the free version and the pro version. And I've seen that lately, usually doesn't create any problem. But lately, I've seen that if I upgrade the Elementor free to version something, and Pro is not updated because, for example, the license is expired or anything, it breaks the site. And that can happen later on. It won't happen with Breakdance because there's no free version. Won't happen with Bricks when it becomes yearly because of that as well. But still, you need to think that you're going to have to pay for it for years to come. Okay, so take that into account. Not necessarily a bad thing, just a thing to consider and remember. So, who's the clear winner between bricks and breakdance? Well, I tried to be as objective as I could in that video. You must remember also that bricks was released at least a year before breakdance. So they had the time to do some corrections, to correct bug, to listen to the users and improve it, which is not the case with breakdance, which is still at version 1.03, I think, right now. So I would say it depends on how many points of importance that you accord to each thing. I have mentioned four things, but it's not necessarily 1 point for each. Okay, if for you, for example, support means 5 points, it's really important. You might have a different opinion than me on that. I'll give the example here. If the price is the number one priority for you, then of course Bricks will probably be the winner. But if you say, I want to pay for a good product, I don't mind paying as long as it's good, then maybe it will be bricks, or maybe it will be breakdance. If ease of use for you and your client is the main point, then maybe you will say that breakdance is better in that regard. One thing is sure, you can't really make a bad choice by choosing one over the other. Both are great products. And I've seen some videos, not to name it, not to name the author, because I didn't ask his permission, but he did a video about saying that I don't want to love or like breakdance, but it is a great product. It is really a great product. Bricks is one as well. So it's a matter of preference here. I tried in that video to help you make a decision, but both products are great. I might use both product. I like both product anyway. So if I make a choice, it might be based on what I said about the fact that I already have a lifetime license on bricks and the support and so on. But breakdance, I really like it. So I don't know. Didn't make my decision completely yet. But of course, you're allowed to have a different opinion than me. So thank you. It was a pretty long video, I'm sure, and took many weeks to put together. So please, if you liked it, take 2 seconds to leave a thumbs up. Leave your comments below. I would really like to see your comments as well, and help me improve, of course. And if you like it, of course, you can subscribe to my channel for more videos on topics as those. So thank you and have a good day.